What is up, everybody? Phil here, and welcome to KO Gaming. This past weekend, I was lucky enough to be able to participate in the Injustice 2 online beta on the PlayStation 4. Special shout out thanks to Richard, a viewer of mine, who actually provided me with an extra code to do this, because I had actually registered to be in this beta way back when and was not randomly selected, so thanks to Richard, I was actually able to play about 8 hours of online competitive gameplay in this game. There are 5 characters available in the beta currently. I played with all of them, and I basically got a good flavor for what I think this game is going to be when it is released at retail in a few months this coming May. So, what I want to do in this video is outline the positives and the negatives, the things I really liked about the beta, the things maybe I didn't like, and kind of give you my impressions overall on how the beta performs, and basically what I think about this game as it is impending for release in just a couple of months. So without further ado, here we go. So the roster for the online beta right now, as is comprised of a good mix of returning characters from the original Injustice as well as some new ones. We've got the tried and true favorites, Batman and Superman, returning, as well as 3 new characters. You've got Supergirl, Atrocitus, who actually is one of the Red Lantern Corps, and then you've also got Blue Beetle. So a pretty interesting mix there. 2 of the characters coming back from the previous game, and I'll be honest here, it didn't really feel to me like Batman or Superman had been significantly changed. I mean, maybe they had been tweaked here or there, but for the most part, their movesets are the same, their combos are almost identical, and in a lot of ways, it just felt like if you really had played the first game and you wanted to see, oh, here's how it's going to be implemented in the second game, I think that's why they kind of put them in the beta. But really, the more interesting stuff here were the new characters. You got Supergirl, who basically is a variant of Superman. She's got a lot of the same or similar moves, such as flying punches, her eye beams used as a projectile, and her freeze breath that leads to extended combos. She also has high combo ability and a little bit of mix-up resets, as well as a hover ability that's kind of interesting. One particular person actually got me into this almost semi-infinite loop in the corner using this hover move, and I think that could be a pretty, respectable and interesting tactic once the game is finally released at retail. You've also got Blue Beetle, who seems like a unique combination of zoning gameplay with his multiple projectiles that can be shot in the air and on the ground, but also his arms turn into blades, which lead to pretty interesting melee style combos and some quick lunging moves that may fool opponents, especially in an online setting where you can't really react as quickly. And then you've got Atrocitus, a character that seems like he'll be a pretty unique, almost a lockdown character. He's got this little assist that he calls in as his superhero ability, a cat that is able to shoot different projectiles and also participate in combos. And so what Atrocitus can actually do is use a high-low combination of attacks mixed in with those projectiles from the cat, as well as some of his own moves, to kind of put you into block strings that kind of confuse you and lead you to not know, should I be blocking high or low? If you try to escape, sometimes you'll get stuff leading to a large combo. So it seems like the characters that they've put into this beta are a good variety, and that's good because the last thing you want is to have 3 of the same style of character in a beta, and then you really don't get a good variety of what kind of things to expect. I think that they actually did a pretty good job with this roster, and if rumors are to be believed, every week moving forward for the next 3 or so weeks, there's supposed to be a new character released in this beta, so that there'll be even more characters revealed before the final release. Now, right off the bat, one of the things that kind of frustrated me about this beta is that there's no training mode. There's literally no offline mode whatsoever. It's 100% online gameplay. And listen, I understand the reason they're doing it. They really launched this beta because they're trying to test the netcode, and I get it. But for some of us, especially me, who haven't really been following along the cast, I haven't had hands-on experience with this game yet, and I haven't even played Injustice in the greater part of 3+ years, I would like a little bit of a warm-up maybe. Throw me into training mode for 5 minutes so I can mess around with the character and learn their special moves and maybe a few basic combos. I mean, heck, when I started playing this beta, I couldn't even remember things like the wall bounce, overheads, clashes. It took significant hours of gameplay for me to kind of refresh myself on all of those different gameplay mechanics and get more immersed back into the world of Injustice, and it was a little frustrating, especially for those who had been in the beta longer than me and had all of that under their belt and were immediately destroying me online. It's kind of annoying, but if you can get over the fact that you're not going to be able to practice at all and you're okay with taking a bunch of lumps as you kind of learn the ropes, then the online beta really isn't that big of a deal, being that you can't play offline at all in practice. The new addition to Injustice 2 is the equipment system, so let me talk a little bit about that now, because I know that's what a lot of people are wondering about. So as you're playing the online beta, you're going to, just by default, whether you win or lose, start unlocking equipment for your various characters, and it's kind of funny, because it's not necessarily always for the character you're playing with. I actually found that usually you'd unlock equipment for the other characters you weren't using, more so than the character that maybe you were using at the time. The equipment can be various things, such as headgear, chest gear, stuff for your arms, stuff for your legs. Sometimes there's an emblem or something that you can add on, or a peripheral to your character, and they all have various stat increases or buffs. For example, more health, or more defense, or more damage, things like that. But in addition, some unique epic level equipment adds some other things. For example, some of them may do a damage variant on a certain special move. Some of them may give you latent abilities that other equipment don't give you. And some of them actually change your abilities completely. For example, as I was playing a few different people, I noticed, oh man, this particular Superman that I played has a ground pound move, and I have no idea how he's doing that because I don't have that when I'm playing with Superman. I also noticed some people were doing variants of Supergirl's eye lasers, where she could walk forward and do this super powered laser, which I couldn't figure out how to do. Come to find out, these were actually optional variants of special moves that could only be used when you have certain equipment on those characters. So it's a unique premise. The more you play, the more you earn. It changes the physical appearance of your characters, which is nice. It's always good to be able to customize the look of your character in particular and make them your own, but it also adds various buffs and stats and even new abilities. Now, some people may cry foul here and say, well, that's ridiculous. Just because someone played the game more than me shouldn't give them an insanely unfair advantage when it comes to just plain damage output and the like. I could understand if someone plays the game better than me or has better strategies than me, but why are they doing more damage than me for doing the same kind of move? That's not fair. You know what? I have to tend to agree there, coming from a competitive Street Fighter background. If I went to an arcade to play in a tournament and some guy picked Ryu and I picked Ryu and he was doing double damage against me just because he played at that arcade more, I'd be super pissed off too, and that's completely unfair. The good news is, in these matches, on the fly, they give you the ability to disable equipment. Now, the only matches available in this online beta currently are player matches, where you have the ability to either have the equipment on or off. But NetherRealm already announced that during their ranked matches, that it's going to be kind of disabled by default. The only function of equipment will basically be the physical appearance changes. So that's a good thing, because when this game comes down to the competitive side, the last thing I want is someone having 10 variant special moves that I've never seen before, or doing double damage than what they normally should be just because they played more. It's a cool premise, and certainly there's probably going to be people who want to mess around with that stuff, but from a competitive angle, it's also nice to know that you're going to be able to nerf it. Gameplay-wise, it doesn't seem that Injustice 2 has really changed much from the original game. You've got 3 basic attack buttons, you've got a button used to implement your unique superhero abilities in various different ways, you've got a wall bounce move that leads to further combo ability and also enacts an environmental kind of transition into another portion of certain parts of the stages, you've got throws, you've got off-the-ground combos, you've got juggles. Basically everything that was in the original Injustice is back. Honestly, with little added, it almost seems like that equipment system may be the only real new thing that's been added to the combat engine of the game. And I'll be honest here, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think that too many fighting games in this day and age seek to add gimmicks to each new installment to try to get new players to come in and say, oh, it's fresh and different. I mean, Street Fighter, every single numbered iteration of that game had some kind of a new gimmick that changed up the entire gameplay pattern. Did Injustice 2 really need that? I don't know. I think what's going to happen is once the full game is finally released and we see the full roster of 20 or so fighters, if there's enough variety in there, you probably don't need that gimmick to say, oh, it feels fresh and different. For me, it was good that it was more like the original game because it allowed me to adapt and remember, oh yeah, the clashes, I remember those, and they work exactly the same here in this beta as they did in the original game, so it didn't lead to a large learning curve or having to learn all these new different things that are being implemented. It felt more like just going back to a game that I liked a few years ago, and that's certainly a good thing. Now, when it comes to balance and who I actually think is good in the beta, well, overall, I think Superman is pretty much the best character released so far. I mean, he was incredibly good in the original Injustice. He has a great ranged game with his variant eye lasers that do big damage, and they cover most of the screen, and online in a lot of cases it's hard to even avoid or block them. He's got high combo ability, he's got mix-ups with high-low and also with overheads, leading into big damage juggles and environmental transitions, and basically, he's a friggin' nightmare. He has every kind of strategy that you would want in a fighting game, and that could make it pretty difficult to defeat him. Now, Supergirl almost seems like Superman Light, where she has a lot of the same kind of moves and a couple variants. Like I mentioned, she has this hover ability, but I don't know if she necessarily has as many things that can be utilized as well as Superman's. Again, this is the early beta gameplay. There's no way to know when the game finally releases in competitive circles how well she's going to be utilized, but for now she seems good, but probably not as good as her big brother Supes. Batman seems pretty much unchanged. From what I saw, almost everything was identical to the original game, which means he has a good mix-up game, which means he has a few tricks, but he's not necessarily the best in the game from what I saw. When it comes to the newer characters, Blue Beetle, I'm not so sure. Seems like he has a pretty good fireball game, but he doesn't have a lot of variants. He has like 1 or 2 fireballs, and that's pretty much it. The blades on his arms seem like they'll be interesting because he has a lot of reach, but I don't necessarily know if he has a lot of high priority and or a good mix-up that's going to make him viable in a tournament level. I guess it remains to be seen. Kind of the same thing with Atrocitus. He's interesting at first when you see he's throwing projectiles and doing these big lava geysers out of the ground, and he's mixing you up high and low, but once you learn the high-low game, it seems to be kind of a gimmick. Now, of course, maybe people will figure out unblockable setups and stuff with him that'll actually make him really good in a tournament setting, or maybe not. Maybe he'll be a one-trick pony where he's got this one gimmick, and as long as you know how to defend properly against it, he really isn't that good. Again, it's too early to tell. I did like the fact that these guys seem to have strategies that formulated over the course of this weekend from people who were playing them, but for me, I honestly think that Superman, hands down, is the best character so far. Ultimately, though, I think what most people really want to know about with this game is the online play, because basically this is a beta testing the online code and capabilities of Injustice 2, and obviously NetherRealm is going to take this opportunity to gather data, put it together, and improve the final product. And the good news is they've got a full 3 months to do that before the game is going to be released in mid-May, but my impressions of this initial online play are kind of mixed, and let me explain. There's an option in the menu that allows you to have it so that you can see the milliseconds of delay in a connection to a person who you're trying to play. I did this on purpose because rather than having those coded bars that sometimes, green bars or yellow bars or red bars, sometimes it doesn't mean anything and it's not correct anyway, so I wanted to actually see in a numerical measurement how much delay I had between my opponent. I hate to say it, but I'd say probably about 80% of the time, these connections were 100 milliseconds or greater in delay. Now, just to give you some perspective here, basically anything around 100 milliseconds or more makes it so that there's significant delay and makes it almost impossible to react to something that you see happening on your television screen. You really need to have below 100 milliseconds in order to be able to react and say, oh, someone's jumping at me, here's an anti-air, or, oh, I'm doing a 2-hit combo. If it hits, then I'll finish with the finishing move that'll, advance the combo, but I have to see if there's a hit confirm, meaning if they block it, you don't do that third move, because if you do the third move and they block it, then it's unsafe. Really, honestly, with 100 milliseconds or more, it's not possible to do hit confirms. So for me, the vast majority of gameplay that I got in this beta was kind of delayed, and I really wasn't able to learn, gee, in this situation, if they whiff this special move, can I punish it? If I block their super, can I then hit them afterwards with a follow-up? Every time that I would try, a lot of the times there was such delay in when I tried to do an input, I couldn't tell if that was actually not punishable at all, or not blockable at all, or was I just too slow? It's not possible to tell when you have extended amounts of delay here. And honestly, the best connection I got was a 20 millisecond connection. A guy who I played for one match, because there was literally no delay, I decimated this guy with Atrocitus, mixing him up high and low and throwing projectiles at him, and he quit right after the match because I beat him so badly. So if anything, I think a lot of people are so used to delay that when they play a match without it, they get destroyed, and then they get all frustrated and they can't understand what's going on. Now, I've actually heard that some people have reported better connections than what I got. Some people are saying that they're getting worse connections than I got. I think it's a mixed bag, and it all depends on your location, and obviously the matches you're getting, you don't know where these people are located. They could be on the other side of the country. Hell, they could be on the other side of the globe. There's really no way to tell. Now, before I kind of conclude, I have to ask this one particular question. I heard that last year, Mortal Kombat 10, the last outing for NetherRealm, got a big online improvement that supposedly they replaced or improved the netcode significantly from when the game launched in 2015, and the game ran way better online. Everyone loved this improved netcode. It was just a shame that it took a year for this netcode to roll out. But most people are saying that's not the netcode in this. For whatever reason, the Injustice 2 beta is not using this Wave 2 Mortal Kombat 10 netcode. And I gotta ask, if you had this netcode that was so good, why aren't you using it for Injustice 2? This doesn't make any sense to me at all. Why roll back to a previous version of netcode that you knew wasn't as good? I mean, maybe they think they can get it as good if they work out the kinks with this beta, but it just blows my mind. When you're already better, why take a step back and try to find another way to get better again? You know what I mean? It just really is confusing to me. Hopefully, within the next few months, the netcode does improve, because right now, I'll be honest, my experience with the Injustice 2 online beta is basically equivocal to what I had when I played Injustice 1. The vast majority of matches are laggy. Every once in a while, I get an amazing match against someone with no lag, and I end up dominating them because there is none. But overall, the overall experience is kind of like, it's definitely not competitive, and it's not like playing offline because of the amount of delay. So, my overall experience with the Injustice 2 beta, I liked it. I like where they're going. We know there's going to be a big cast when this game launches. We know to expect great amounts of content from NetherRealm. And by the way, I have to say this. The beta actually works, unlike Street Fighter V's beta, which had multiple waves way before the game was ever released, and the beta almost never worked. Here you can get matches, you can get a flavor for what the game's going to be. You might not always get the best connection, but at least you get some satisfaction out of being able to play the game early, but NetherRealm gets the data that hopefully they need in order to improve the netcode in time for release. It's a win-win situation for all. If they have a really varied cast with different gameplay styles and such, I think this game's going to be a big hit. Let's face it, comic book movies and everything are all the rage today, so it's probably going to be an even bigger hit than the original Injustice was 4 years ago, and I'm super excited. I'm very happy that I got to play in the beta. If you want to check out any of the raw gameplay that I did, go over to my DSP Gaming channel. There's 8 hours of it in a playlist for you to check out. I'm really hyped, and I can't wait for May. Well, that is it, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed this video and you found it informative as well as entertaining. If you did, please consider giving it a like right here on YouTube, and consider subscribing to my KO Gaming channel, where you're going to get lots of this kind of video in the coming months with all the new game releases and such that will be coming shortly. Please check out the video description, not only to see the raw gameplay of Injustice 2 like I already mentioned, but also you'll find other cool stuff like a Loot Crate discount code, a link to my Patreon, and many other fun things. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on KO Gaming.